I am Reverend Father Paschal Onwugbenu, currently serving as the Education Secretary for Onitsha Archdiocese. It's a wonderful gift to me to be serving as the Education Secretary to help facilitate the learning process of the younger ones and to help in shaping the future of the society in a very positive manner. It is something that I cherish and I will always appreciate. And I thank the Almighty God for giving me that gift. And I also thank the Archbishop of Onitsha, the Most Reverend Valerian Madoka Okeke, for his favors to have me in this position and for all his support. Thank you so much. You know, the church, the Catholic Church, has the educational apostolate as one of its main thrusts in the ministry, because it is an injunction of Christ the head, who said, "Go and teach all nations, baptize them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit." So the teaching ministry is actually a mandate from Christ. And in doing that, because Paul said, unless you hear, you cannot have the faith. So the church, the Onitsha Archdiocese, as a member of the Catholic Church, is actually carrying out the mandate of Christ. And what we are trying to do, our own idea of education is not about passing an exam. It's not about proficiencies. It's not about standards. It's about enlightenment. Education understood as enlightenment. And by that we mean when you flash the light on somebody's way of life, for the person to understand the dangers and the gains in the way and be able to fashion and conform himself or herself in such a way as to be the best he or she can be. So that's what we do in various aspects in the schools, beginning from the basic schools, the early education, early childhood education, the basic schools, the secondary, and the tertiary, even though right now the tertiary is still in the making. So what we've done in the past years are, first of all, to understand what it means to convince somebody. Because what you do in education is not to force or coerce. What you do is to facilitate. And in trying to facilitate, you have to make somebody understand and believe in that venture. And when you secure willing cooperation, then it's easy to go. So we understood the difference between, if we must reach the right altitude, we have to look at the attitude and not just the aptitude. The mistake of education today in our country is that great emphasis is being laid on the aptitude, but comprehension is different from communication and different from execution. That you understand, you have the knowledge, does not mean you can communicate that to other people and convince them. And if they are convinced, doesn't mean that they can execute, that they agree to do. And that ties into what Pintrich and Skinner and Fredericks wrote in their research article 2011, when they identified the confusion between aptitude and attitude, when they won't do and they can't do, when teachers misunderstand that kids cannot, they don't have the ability, but the problem is that they don't want to. So our aim in our educational venture and endeavor is to find a way to convince teachers, convince parents, convince students to want to do the right thing, to understand the way, to make the best decisions in life. To the glory of God, we are having more patronage in our schools. We have 11 returned secondary schools, that is, the ones that the government took over after the war and now they are returned to us. And then we have 209 returned primary schools. But over and above these ones, we have 112 parochial secondary schools. That is the ones that were never taken over, that were established after the war. And we have 108 primary schools that we can say the government has no hand in. They weren't taken over, they were returned. So that counts for the number of schools that we have. You see, ICT is always a very debatable topic in education because people make a distinction between having technology in the classroom and having technology drive education. You find that much emphasis is laid on having technology in the classroom. It doesn't impact on the academic achievement of the students. So in the Archdiocese of Onitsha, we are much more interested in having technology drive education. The way we do it is, what do we want ICT to do? First, not to displace the human beings, the teachers who are there, but how it can support and make more efficient the instructional delivery of the teachers that we have. Secondly, how can it enhance the academic achievement? Because for you to talk about academic achievement, you have to talk about the interest, not just interest, the motivation, not just motivation, engagement of the students. If they don't want to be there and engage and find it a fruitful venture, then it doesn't matter. The technology will become a distraction. Now, we've employed technology in terms of collecting data. Because when you have data analysis, you can make decisions that are strategic and that will have meaningful impact. Secondly, we try to get teachers to also merge face-to-face teaching instruction with ICT component, such that the child will continue to learn back in the hostel, back in their homes, even when the teacher is no more there. There can be recordings, there can be WhatsApp teachings, there can be actually teaching through educational platform that we have instituted that the kids can access much after they've left the classroom, so that they have one continuum of educational moment in their lives. Well, if you know what the church stands for, then you know the church is charity. And we cannot ever allow a student who wants to, who makes effort, but by chance they don't have the money, just to leave. In fact, no government in Nigeria, not even the federal government, was able to give scholarship after the flooding of 2012 and after that of 2018. His Great the Archbishop gave full scholarship. Students paid nothing. All the students in our coastal areas that you have about Anambra West Local Government, some part of Anambra East, Ayamen Local Government, Obaru Local Government. These 4 local governments are on the coastal lines along the coast of Niger River and the other rivers. So they were affected by the flooding. And all the schools that are owned by the Archdiocese of Onitsha, the Archbishop of Onitsha gave 1 full year scholarship after the 2012 flooding. And after 2018 flooding, he gave 2-year complete scholarship to all the students. You can imagine that. No state ever did it. The federal government could not do it. Onitsha Archdiocese did it, and that's just one. In all our schools, we have a standing, the Archbishop has a standing scholarship waiting for anybody to grab, the students. If you make 9 straight A's in your SSCE, you have full scholarship in any Nigerian university. If you're going outside for your university studies, you have your flight ticket and a good part of pocket money from the Archdiocese of Onitsha. This is to encourage the students to even do more and to outdo themselves in not just being great, but to be excellent. In not just being excellent, but to be outstanding, to be the beacon of light shining for others to see. Then the Archbishop, almost each time he goes to schools on pastoral visits, because we have an Archbishop who doesn't just sit on his cathedral and issue orders. He comes down, he goes there, he sees it, he solves it. So he goes to the schools to sit with the students each time, and even has one day in a year that's the Archbishop's Day with the students, when they all come to be with their proprietor, and some of them will ask him questions directly, unmediated, and he gives answers immediately. In all of those schools, in all of those visits, he always awards scholarship to people who shone as stars in that school during his visit. Then also, there are so many other students through the principals and the managers of the school that the Archbishop award scholarship to. I don't want to give off-the-cuff calculation, but I tell you, if you calculate the number of scholarships the Archbishop has rolling every year in the Archdiocese-owned primary and secondary schools, you're counting in excess of 10 million naira annually. That's not all. The Archbishop of Onitsha currently is training over 16 students in Veritas University, Abuja. They don't have to be Catholics. They don't have to be from Onitsha Diocese. They don't have to be from Anambra State. If they qualify during the interview process and they are domiciled in the geographical territory of Onitsha Archdiocese, they got it. And no diocese in Nigeria matches that. So you can even continue, but for one off time, I want to limit myself to this for now. Thank you. Thank you so much. I will feel like if I'm singing the praises of the Archbishop of Onitsha, but also history have to record what happened. And on the side of history, not singing his praises, His Grace, the Archbishop of Onitsha, is one person that is strategic in his approach. The Archdiocese of Onitsha has already a College of Nursing, which is one of the few in the entire country, Nigeria. The Archdiocese of Onitsha is also establishing the Shanahan University. The work is in progress, and you can be amazed at the rate of work going on. But beside the work going on, in his own strategic way of doing things, the Archbishop did not want to establish one of the universities. He wanted to establish a university that is unique in its own course. And what do I mean? His Grace, first of all, looked at the unique talents that God gave to the people of Anambra State and Igbo land, and discovered that between Nnewi and what people without any formal education are doing with motor and machine parts, and how they're able to get back to life and almost a carcass of an automobile, between also what people do at the place they call Mbuka or Bosi, where people without any formal education can easily, under 1 hour, dismantle, reconstruct, re-engineer automobile parts, and they begin to work again. He said, now you have to equip them with the theoretical knowledge so that they can do even more and become the spark of industrial revolution in Nigeria, productive economy. And that's where we are. He wants a university that builds on the talents that people here already have from God. That's Shanahan University. But it won't stop at science alone, even though it is science inclined. But we have to bring in every other facet, because society is not just made up of scientists, but also people from all walks of life and all disciplines. Building on what I said before, His Grace, the Most Reverend Valerian Maduka Okeke, the Archbishop of Onitsha, goes strategically in whatever he does. I take you back a little bit to when schools were returned to the Archdiocese of Onitsha. While everybody, to the missions and voluntary agencies, while everybody was clamoring for the return of schools, not many people in the churches were preparing for those who will man the schools. But His Grace, in anticipation of when the school will be returned, sent out priests overseas in different countries to learn about the education system, to acquire the degrees and come back to merge the different cultures, to bring out the one that's best for our context and locality. And as I'm talking to you now, the Archbishop of Onitsha has trained about 14 priests in 4 countries in education-related courses. We trained 1 in Canada, 1 in Nigeria, 4 in the United States of America, and the rest in Italy. And more are coming. In the system already, we have about 8 fully engaged in the educational apostolate, and others are contributing from the place where they are through giving seminars, professional development, and policy input. So you can see how he proceeds. That's exactly the model he's replicating in the setting up of the Shanahan University. Many priests are out in different countries. Mark the idea of in different countries, because you just don't want to go and borrow from one country because the characteristics of the two countries may not be the same. But when you get the best of the practices in different areas and merge them, create a synergy and adapt to our context, you will get our own original idea, our own original concept of what we want to do and the body of knowledge we want to share to the best, to make our society the best. So we have priests in Italy, we have priests in the United States of America, we have priests studying in Canada, we have priests in Poland, we have priests in Hungary, we have priests in Malaysia, we have priests in Kenya, and we're exploring other countries more. And all of these are not enjoying scholarship, they are being paid for from the pocket of the Archdiocese of Onitsha. I don't want to mention the amount because that is the one single project that takes the most amount of money than any other project in this Archdiocese of Onitsha. Thank you. And by the way, His Grace does that because He knows when you set up a university, almost the funds needed to run the university must come from the university. And if you hire professor, you must pay professor. Otherwise, if you get a cheap one, they will give you cheap output. To train priests then, who will be part of the major faculty of the university, means you don't have to pay them as you're paying the professors. You have to maintain them as priests of the Archdiocese. They will give you even more than the professors will give you. They will give you commitment, and then they don't have to be paid as high. That means he is already planning on ways of cutting down the tuition payable by prospective students. Isn't that amazing from someone like the Archbishop? It's a very good question. I feel like I will set the question and mark for myself, which I'm not sure will be credible. However, we've seen signs and testimonies from people about the achievements, the thrust of the educational process that the Archdiocese of Onitsha, through the Education Office and the Strategic Committee on Education, the endeavors they're engaging and the efforts they're making. Now, we see people in our schools coming down from Abuja, from Lagos, from Port Harcourt, somebody from South Africa, and people asking questions from even United States of America. So I think they are applauding with their actions by sending down, leaving all the schools in Lagos and Abuja and sending them here. That's number one. Number two, even though our tuition is among the lowest, if not in the entire nation, when we go for competitions, when we go for external examinations, we hold our heads high. We are among the tops. That says about the quality of the system and in the system. I'll go back to the aim and the plan of the Archbishop. The Archbishop wants to impact on the entire society because there's something we know so well here, which I'm not sure people are well aware of outside there. If you have a handful of students in your own school and you form them and you teach them and they understand and they follow, and you have many other students in other institutions that are not as formed as trained, all that is needed is 1 week midterm break. They will reverse all the things you have done. So our aim is to see the things we are initiating, the way we are traveling, simmering into the entire society. In fact, the Archbishop has done that in many ways. For example, before Oluchukwu Oil and Gas Filling Station in Onitsha here, we suffer two things. The meter gauge is never complete. You have adulterated products everywhere, and people are going to the mechanic because their engines knocked. With Oluchukwu Oil and Gas Filling Station, the meter is always complete. The product is never adulterated, and within 1 year, almost all the filling stations around Onitsha have borrowed and have come on board. Isn't that how to influence the society for good? Before the Sapientia radio, people take people for a ride. People were not given a voice. Sapientia came and gave people their calling. They say how they feel. The government listens and interventions are made. That's how to impact positively on the society. And that's what we want to do in the education sector. For people to understand, is not about passing exams. It's not about carrying certificates. It's about the word underlined, enlighten men. Shine the light on their way that they will understand, make right decisions, have critical thinking, and problem-solving skills. I am Reverend Father Paschal Onwugbenu, Education Secretary, the Archdiocese of Onitsha. I am watching always the Prime Business Africa, and I enjoy you to keep watching.